Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jacqueline Lopez, and today I have more tier tray DIYs. You guys asked for them, so here they are. Today I'm going to be sharing 3 different ones. I'm going to be making this reversible faux architectural salvage mini wooden signs. I'm going to be also making this craft paper wrapped tulip bundle, and you guys asked how to make the lace ribbon wood bead garland, so I'm going to be sharing that with you today. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so that you are notified every time that I post a new video. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Now let's go ahead and get started. For the first DIY, we are going to need these little they're called rosettes, and I bought them at the hardware store for about $2. We're also going to need some die cut wood shapes. I got them from Michael's, some paintbrush, some glue, and some sandpaper. Now we are going to start this DIY by painting our little wooden rosette block, and I'm going to be painting it with Apple Barrel's acrylic paint in burnt umber. I love this color, and all we're going to do is give it 1 coat of this. You can most definitely stain it, but acrylic paint dries quicker. That's why I use that. As you can see in the back, I couldn't take off the barcode little sticker that it has in the back. You can sand it off if you want it to come off. It's going to be in the back. I'm going to cover it anyways with paint, so it didn't bother me. Again, all you're going to do is give it 1 coat. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's okay if it's not. We're going to be distressing it anyways. And now we're also going to do the same to these cut shapes. As you can see, it comes with 3, and I'm going to go ahead and use the square ones because they fit perfectly on our wooden block. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do a very basic 1 coat of the brown acrylic paint, and I'm only going to be painting one side. But I do want to point out to paint inside these little grooves, because once we go ahead and add our second layer of white paint, it is going to show through, so you want to make sure to paint all that. Now I'm going to go ahead and let both of them fully dry before I add my layer of white chalk paint. Same thing, just 1 coat. It doesn't need to be perfect. The reason why I am doing the white paint is because I'm going to be distressing it, and I want some of the brown to show through. That way it resembles it having been stained and then maybe painted, and then we're going to resemble also like the passage of time around it, and that's what we're going to do by distressing it. So paint all the sides, front and back, and then I'm going to do the same to the little die cut shape, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to want to paint inside of those grooves just so that it all fits perfectly. And don't worry, it doesn't need to be perfect. We're going to be distressing it as well. Once all my pieces are fully dry, I'm going to be using some E6000 to adhere this little die cut shape to the back, and that is why I didn't care about the sticker, because we're going to be covering it anyways. All I'm going to do is take some of the E6000, add dabs to where the design is thicker. I hope that makes sense, just so that there's more hold to it, and then I'm going to use something heavy to press down on it to make sure that it stays in place. Just for the video's sake, I am going to be adding a little bit of hot glue to different areas of the die cut shape as well. Again, that's just so that there's a quicker bond for video's sake, but I don't recommend just using that because it will not stick. It will come off eventually, and you don't want that. So again, try and center it as much as possible. If it's not perfectly centered, that's okay. It'll just add to the look of it looking salvage. Once our glue is dry, we're going to move on to using our sandpaper to distress it. Now I am going to be distressing the corners and all of the raised areas, and I'm going to be very mindful of where I'm distressing. I'm not going to distress inside the grooves of the rosette design, for example, because then it'll look like intentional distressing, even though it's very intentional. I want it to look more like what would happen if this piece had come off of a door, because that's usually where they are, and then it was in a salvage yard and it got tossed around. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to do very intentional, unintentional looking distressing. I hope that makes sense. I'll let you watch a little bit. I won't bore you through watching me distress the whole thing because it did take some time. This is the only piece of sandpaper that I could find this day. I could not find my sanding block, so it just took a little bit longer than I wanted to. You see here in these areas where it makes sense to do the first layer of the burnt umber, you do see some of it peeking through, and then you have other areas that are a little bit more distressed where you're going to see the natural wood tone come through as well. And I love that it's that multi-dimensional where we have multiple colors peeking through depending on how heavy or how light our distressing is. Now I am going to suggest to do a little bit lighter distressing on this die cut piece because it is a much thinner wood, so it very easily actually distresses. So you're going to take off all the paint if you go very heavy on this. So on this area I'm being even more cautious of where I'm distressing, and I am sanding with a much lighter hand. And here it is with both sides distressed to my liking. I really love the way that it looks. I feel like it does look very naturally distressed. For the second DIY, we are going to need some tulips. These are from Michael's for only $1.99, and they have them most spring season long, so go ahead and get them before they run out. I'm also going to be using some Dollar Tree craft paper, some wire cutters, and I'm going to be using some gift wrap scissors, but you can use normal scissors. Now I'm going to start by cutting a square, or as much of a square as I can, with this craft paper. Now you can use regular brown craft paper, but I loved that this one had the white little polka dots. I feel like that's going to match my decor so much. Now go ahead and fold it into a triangle. You can trim some of the excess. I will end up cutting that. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up some of these green pieces on the tulips so that when I bundle them up together, you'll still be able to see some of the green on it. Now I'm going to go ahead and lay this out in kind of like the shape of a triangle so that it's fuller up top where my craft paper will wrap around it. So I'm going to start with this set of 3, and again I'm just going to lay them on top of one another so that it is a triangle. So that's going to be my very top piece, and then I'll start layering on top of that. Now that I have my tulips in the shape that I want, again, I want this triangle shape so that it looks like if it's draping over the top. I'm going to take some twine, which I did forget to mention we needed, and I'm going to go ahead and tie all of my tulips together to create this cute little bundle. I'm going to fluff it up, and then I'm going to do my second and tight knot around it, and once we have it together, I'm going to trim the bottom to the shortest of our stems just so that it's all more uniform looking. Now we are going to take our craft paper and we're going to flip it over so that the peak of our triangle is what's up top. And there's several ways to wrap this. I'm going to pre-cut my twine just so that I'm ready because this part kind of moves fast. So I hope this visually makes sense of what I'm doing. Ask me any questions if you have it down below. You can do a simple wrap around, but a little peak of the triangle will show through. So what you can do to keep that from showing through is you can tuck it behind it, and then it'll just wrap around the back of the tulips, and then you're going to do the same with our other side, and again it'll just wrap around the back of the craft paper and create kind of a cone shape. But I want mine to be a little bit tighter, so I'm going to wrap it without tucking so that it'll create a very slight like fold mark on it, and I'll know where to cut that excess off. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap both sides around it, the trimmed piece first, and then I'm going to take the other one and wrap it around itself. That way it creates a cone, and I want this to be a smaller, more tighter cone, so that's why I'm holding it up to make sure that the flowers stay in place and so that it is nice and tight. Now I'm going to take my pre-cut jute twine and I'm going to wrap it around so that I can see where I want my little knot and bow to be. So I don't do it tight at first, it's just very simple and loose so that I can make sure that everything is in the place where I want it to be. And then that's where I'm going to tighten it, because it will move down and it will move your flowers up. Keep that in mind. And then I'm going to just do a simple second knot and a bow on it. Once you perfect your bow, go ahead and trim the excess, and that's it. For the final and very requested DIY, we are going to be using 9 25mm beads. I got the size this time. We're going to be using some jute twine, lace ribbon, scissors, and on this one, we're going to be finishing it off with some hot glue. So we're going to start just like the other wood bead garland, and that is by threading all of our wood beads onto our jute twine. Again, this one is from Walmart, but you can most definitely use the Dollar Tree kind. I'm also going to link the beads down below. I bought these from Amazon, so you'll be able to buy the exact same ones that I am using. Once you have them all threaded through, I am going to leave an excess at the bottom for the lace ribbon and then an excess at the top so that I can make this loop. I'm going to tie just a simple knot in it. I'm going to trim off the excess, and then we are going to hide this little excess inside of the bead. And to close it off and make it look like a more polished DIY, we are going to be using some hot glue on the jute so that it can hide and stick inside of the bead. So now the bead is glued to the jute rope at the top. Now I also wanted to share this neat trick I learned off Instagram. I got it from Elizabeth at Creek Grown, and she actually learned it from her son. But add a little bit of hot glue to your new glue stick and it'll glue on to the one that's already in the glue gun, and then it won't fall out. I struggle with that all the time, so I just wanted to share that. Now I'm going to cut 7 pieces of my lace ribbon, and this will be to whatever length you want your tassel to be. Remember, you are going to fold it in half, so keep that in mind. Now I'm going to take the 7 pieces, lay them on top of one another so that we can form our tassel, and I am alternating the design on the lace ribbon. Now it's time to add it to the wood bead garland. I'm going to decide what the center is because that's where I'm going to make the knot to attach it to it, and that will give it its tassel shape. Now keep in mind that you do want your garland to have some movement, so that'll kind of decide how far up to tie your tassel. Once you have it where you want it, make sure that you do make a very tight simple knot, and I am going to do 2 just so that I can make sure that the lace pieces don't move out of place. Once you have it all where you want it, tighten it and trim off the excess that is going to be there, because we are going to do the same thing we did up top, which is insert it into our last bead and add some hot glue. Now this one I'm going to be different, just so that you can see that there's different ways. I'm going to be adding the hot glue to the bead and then inserting the little excess. So whichever way you do it, it'll work just fine. Sometimes I use the needles that I use to thread my beads to push it through. Sometimes I use the end of the scissors just to make sure that it looks nice and clean. So there you go, it gives you a very polished look. And the final step is just to trim the bottom of our tassel so that it looks nice and uniform, and that's it. It is very easy to do, and again, it was highly requested, so let me know if you're going to recreate this one. And that's it for our 3 tier tray DIYs. I am very excited with how they turned out, and I love styling them for you on the exact same tier tray. That way you can see how they work together. If you want more pictures, make sure that you are following me over on my Instagram. I do always have that linked down below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so that you are notified every time that I post a new video. Leave me a comment down below which one was your favorite, and also don't forget to like and share it. As always, thank you so much for watching. I have so much fun making these videos for you, and I truly hope that you enjoy them as much as I do. So have a good rest of your day, and bye-bye.